But one of our hot prospects in the motor racing world is back for the F2 season next month. Marcus Armstrong's got a new team. He's left the French team and as well as the Ferrari Driver Academy to join the British outfit High-Tech Grand Prix. And Marcus Armstrong is with us. Good morning.
Morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Good off-season?
It has been a good off-season. I've finally managed to get back to New Zealand, so it's sort of a breath of fresh air being able to hang out with my friends and family. Last year I was stuck in Europe, having New Year's over there. It's a bit colder this time of year. But I think, it is actually really important for me to have this downtime to sort of recharge for this season.
Have you been training?
Yeah, a lot actually. And I think, my dad has been telling me to chill out, but it's sort of it's first off a lifestyle choice, but secondly, it makes a massive difference in the car to be able to hit the ground running and be super fit and super strong. It makes a big difference at this level.
I tell you what, we've been talking off air and you don't like watching any of this stuff, but I watched over summer a thing called Grand Prix Driver, and it gave you an insight apart from anything else. They followed their training and what they do, and I don't think most people have an appreciation of how fit you guys are, because all they would see generally is as long as you're small and thin, you're fine. But it's way more than that. You're Olympic athletes essentially, aren't you?
Yes, you need to be massively fit, but what you probably don't see is that the lighter you are, the more the engineers can play with the car, so they can put the weight distribution a bit more forward. They can also have a lower center of gravity, so they're always pushing the driver to be super, super light. But at the same time, you also need to be strong enough to drive the thing, because it's an absolute animal, especially these F2 cars, because they don't have power steering. So it's essentially like lifting a 60-kilo dumbbell on the steering wheel every time you're going through a high-speed corner. So it is challenging to try and find that balance. But as well, it's super, super hot. And we're always racing in the Middle East these days. So, you jump in the car, it's like 50 degrees, 60 degrees in the car, and you have to race for an hour. It's not easy at all.
So your first race is in the Middle East, of course. This team of yours, High-Tech, what do they offer you? Because presumably, like everybody else, your goal is F1. Do they offer you a path to F1?
Well, first off, you need to get the results. It doesn't matter how good your pathway is. You always need to perform, and that's sort of my target. I don't want to think about the politics and stuff behind it, but in saying that, when the results come, the contracts often come with it, and it's as simple as that, really. And I trust my managers, I trust High-Tech, and I trust everyone around me. I've got a fantastic team around me. I need to do the job and I need to focus on that.
How predetermined is it on any given weekend? So this is applicable to F2 as well as F1 as far as I can work out. What you do, short of carnage, you go into a weekend kind of knowing your speed on a given track. And if you're not competitive, you're not competitive, and nothing's going to change that. Is that fair?
Well, you probably don't see how much preparation goes into just, the first 2 laps of a race weekend. We're at the factory probably 3 times before the first race, and so much preparation goes into that first couple of laps because you sort of need to hit the ground running, and it makes a massive difference, and you don't really know where you are until you finally hit the track for the first time. And it also depends on ambient temperatures. You could arrive having prepared for this ambient temperature as a team, as a whole, as an engineering group, and then suddenly it's way hotter and it blows everything out the window. So much preparation goes into it at this level.
Are you getting better?
I think that that's my target anyway. I'm trying to get better every single day. And you certainly can't stand still, because every year there's new guys coming. Everyone's improving. The difficult thing about the sport is you don't have the ability to practice. So, I was talking about Rafa Nadal. Imagine if he hadn't played tennis, for 6 weeks or something, and then he rocks up and tries to do a tournament, he wouldn't quite be on it. And that's sort of our issue in motorsport. It's so expensive just to practice that only a few people get to practice. So you always just need to be visualizing in a way and just making sure that you've left no stone unturned in order to perform well.
What's the role of the simulator then?
The simulator plays a massive role in just making sure that the car is set up properly. And I mean, the simulator that I've been using in Maranello for the past couple of years is insane. Like, it's essentially in a room the size of a football field almost. Wow. And it moves around. A lot of people can't use it because it makes them a bit ill. I've done countless days on that bad boy, and it just sort of helps the engineers to know where they are in terms of car setup. And it's also good for us as drivers to just sort of be fresh with the track and But you can't also draw too much from it because it's not real life, as you know.
Having been, and you've left the Ferrari Academy now to go to high tech, but that aside, anybody who knows anything about cars, anybody who loves cars, loves Ferrari. And to live at Maranello and to drive at Maranello and to drive a Ferrari and be associated with Ferrari and to have some red clothing with a horse on it is the greatest thing in the world, isn't it?
I remember my first day with the FDA, putting on that red T-shirt was very special. And then my first F1 test as well, I did last year. And I rocked up to Fiorano and saw about 300 red soldiers, almost, people that I'd never seen before, never saw them again, but they were just there to make sure that the car is working. And it is a surreal feeling when you rock up and there's just so many people there just for you. They're all listening to your every word on the team radio. And in a way, there is pressure, but then as soon as you jump in the car, it's so natural. It's like an instinct. And suddenly you realize sort of why you're there in a way. But man, it is surreal to arrive with so many unknown faces and all in Ferrari. It's a childhood dream.
I reckon. Do you have specific goals this season, apart from winning?
I think we've proved that we can win already. We won that race in Saudi.
Yep.
Now it's just a matter of putting it into a proper championship challenge, because ultimately Formula One teams look at the overall standings at the end of the year, and consistency is massively important. And I think that's one of my main targets this year. I genuinely believe that if I finished 5th in every single race this year, I'd end up winning the championship. That's the sort of chaos that Formula 2 brings.
Yeah.
So consistency is the key, and obviously we need to have the performance to just be on pole position and things like that.
Is it going to change much? I mean, with they've mandated the jab for F1, F2, etc., and you've been travelling anyway and you're wearing masks and the whole thing. Will it get easier this year, or is it easy enough as it is?
Honestly, it's fairly easy as it is. We travel as a group, usually on a charter flight, all the F1 teams, all the F1 personnel together, and generally we only ever see the airport, the hotel, and the racetrack anyway. But it is fairly relaxed. I mean, it's definitely not a challenge at this point.
Fantastic. When do you leave the country?
I leave on Monday, and luckily so. I just got my full driver's license the other day. You'll laugh, but I actually failed my
You're
first.
kidding.
Seriously. Genuinely, I failed.
You failed your driver's test.
Yeah, well, actually, I arrived there, and my dad said to me, "You are 100% going to fail because you don't know the road rules." And I was like, "Yes, I do. No stress. I'll just, I've done this a million times. No worries." And I arrived. I did the test. Came back 5 minutes later, and I said, "So did I pass or not?" And he's like, the guy said to me, he used these words: "Your driving was disgraceful."
You're joking.
Because apparently I had 5 critical errors of some sort.
Oh my God.
Apparently I wasn't looking in my mirrors. That's a big thing for those tests.
So well, you don't do that when you race. So fortunately you've got it and passed now.
Yep, now I can drive on the road in Europe, so I'm fairly happy about that.
Good on you.
Yeah.
Well, go well this season. I'm sure we'll talk sometime this year. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.